I've been thinking the last couple days about what this whole proof of motherhood thing means, what it means to me, what it means to my life, what it means to us as followers of Christ, what it means to us as children. And legacy comes back over and over again. The idea that our parents, our mothers in particular, can hand something down to us that we carry with us, that other people see and they can be affected by, and that legacy, that interaction then speaks back to how special our mothers are. And this idea of heirlooms, family heirlooms, came to me, and it's kind of the same thing, right? I don't know too many guys that hand down family heirlooms or guys that wear family heirlooms, but moms, there's something about it that mothers and grandmothers, it just seems natural. Passing down a piece of their life, a piece of who they are, a piece of their story to a daughter or a granddaughter, whether it's a necklace or a ring or a jewelry box. They pass it down as if to say, take this. Take this. And later on in life, people come across that person wearing this necklace, and they ask for the story behind it. And that child, that granddaughter, that daughter gets a chance to share a piece of her mother's story. And it speaks to the legacy, it speaks to the life that woman led. And the person they're sharing with is affected by it greatly. So as we talk about this proof of motherhood, this proof of godly, faithful motherhood, let's keep that in mind. We're going to read a short passage from the book of Proverbs. Solomon says, "Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They will be a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck." Isn't that a beautiful image? Your mother's teaching, your mother's wisdom, her knowledge, it becomes such a part of you that it's like you're wearing it around your neck. The people you come across in life, it's so noticeable that they can see it. When this was written, there weren't too many people walking around with extravagant gold chains on their neck. But if you had that, the people that came across you knew that there was something different about you. They knew that there was something special about you. And it's the same today. Children that were raised by faithful parents, loving mothers, their lives most of the time they tell a very different story. The knowledge and the wisdom passed down from the mother hangs around their neck like that heirloom, telling the story, sharing that legacy with the people they come across. I want to tell you this morning about a very special woman, someone who I actually have never had the chance to meet, but will one day meet. Her name's Heidi. You can see, this is my friend Heidi. And that sleeping boy next to her on her shoulder is her son Nick. Nick went to college with me. He's one of my best friends. I remember, moving in freshman year, and Nick lived in the room next door to me. I remember hearing all about this wonderful mom that he grew up with. Strong follower of Christ, very strong personality. This kid just loved talking about his mom. And, I've got a good mom, but I didn't go out of my way to just make sure that she was the one I was talking about. If you had a conversation with Nick, it was hard to get very far without hearing something about the way his mom raised him. It was hard to tap into his faith without getting a piece of his mom. It was so clear from day one of my friendship with him that his mom, Heidi, played such an important role in passing down her legacy of faith, in passing down the importance of having a relationship with Christ and sharing that message with the world. Nick was on fire for the Lord, and it was evident. And it was all due to the faith and to the love of his mother, Heidi. About 2 months into our freshman year, Nick went home. He lived 45 minutes from school. He went home for the weekend, and I got a phone call from him telling me that he had had a pretty tough conversation with Heidi. And he told me that earlier in the week, his mom had been to the doctor, and she told him that the doctors told her she had brain cancer, and that it was so far along there was nothing they could do about it, and that she didn't have more than 6 or 7 months to live. And I remember sitting with Nick over the next few days, over the next few months, looking and watching how he dealt with this, and hearing stories about how Heidi was dealing with it. You know, here I am, 18 years old, and such a good friend is going through a hard time. And his faith took a huge hit from this. Watching his mom, someone he loved and cared about, someone that played such a special role in his life, watching her go through so much pain, it hurt him. But all the while, we kept hearing about how faithful Heidi was in all this. Tim shared a verse earlier, and part of it really sticks out to me, that the fact that godly women, they carry a weight with them. Their behavior has the ability to win people over without using words, but their behavior has this spirit-driven power to it. And I think Heidi had that. I think Heidi understood that. In the midst of the pain, in the midst of the fact that she knew she was dying, she kept her faith. She understood full well that God wanted to use her cancer to change the lives of people in her family, and ultimately to change the lives of so many people she had never met before. Heidi's husband, to this day, doesn't have a relationship with the Lord. She worked most of her life to try and help him see that, to pray for him and to bring him closer to having a relationship with God. And a few weeks before she died, she sat Nick and his older brother Travis down and said, "Boys, I know this hasn't been easy for you. I know this has been difficult for you to watch me go through this. But I want you to know that no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much pain I'm going through," she said, "it's okay. Because I'm convinced that even if it means that I have to die from this, that God is going to use this to speak to your Father. Even if it means that I have to die from this so that it will break him to the point where he has to beg for comfort and beg for peace from the only one that can give it," she said, "it's worth it." And I remember hearing that. And up until this point, you know, I had a lot of really high regard for Heidi, but I remember hearing that and thinking, getting this really deep down, gut-wrenching feeling, wondering, would I have the faith to do that? Would I have the faith to say that, to look death in the eye and say, if it's going to change someone's life, then the pain's worth it? During her last few months, she would send Nick letters while he was at school. And she had done this, written letters to him, send him notes with his lunch every morning for school, and at the end of every note, she would include 3 simple words: cling to Jesus. And during these last few months of her life, she understood that a time was coming when her family, when her children would need to hold fast to that. when they would really need to just cling to Jesus like a son to his mother's side. Heidi died at the end of our freshman year, and a few hours after she passed, Travis, Nick's older brother, wrote this in his journal. I began to thank God for the most wonderful mother in the world, and for all the truths that she'd ingrained in me, and the disciplines and the love for Jesus that she taught by example. I thanked him for the bold yet humble life she led, and it was then that I felt God say, Satan tried to take her before she could change the world. But he was too late. And I just kept repeating that. He was too late. He was too late. The next few years were rough for Nick. But all the while, God remained faithful. About 2 years ago, Nick had gotten serious about his relationship with God again, and his mother's legacy began to speak to him again, speak to him in a way that he couldn't shake it. He felt God calling him to start a missions organization in his mother's honor. They named the organization Cling because they understood that was the root of her vision. That was the root of what her life was about. So you want to talk about proof of motherhood. There are people all around the world that are being fed, children that are being clothed, hospitals that are being built, all because this woman had the faith to raise her children with that understanding. A legacy that she handed down that is now having an effect on thousands of people all over the world.